Chapter 1: The Music at 2:15. Ethan Cole had lived in New York long enough to know the city never truly slept. But still, there was something unsettling about the silence of his new apartment building. The place was old red brick, iron fire escapes climbing the walls like skeletal ladders, and a lobby that smelled faintly of dust and varnish. When he signed the lease, the landlord had called it historic. Ethan just thought it looked tired. His own unit, 11B, was small but livable. One bedroom, creaky wooden floors, and a window overlooking the street where yellow cabs never seemed to stop honking. For the first week, things were ordinary. He worked late nights at the newspaper, came home exhausted, and collapsed into bed. But then came the music. At first, it was faint, a few piano notes drifting through the thin walls. So soft he thought he was imagining it. But when he looked at the clock on his nightstand, the numbers glowed back at him. 2:15 a.m. The melody was delicate, almost sorrowful, like someone pressing the keys with hesitation. Ethan lay still, listening. It went on for several minutes, then faded into silence. The next night, it happened again. And the next. Always at 2:15, always the same haunting tune. Finally, curiosity gnawed too hard to ignore. On the fourth night, Ethan threw on a sweatshirt, slipped into the hallway, and followed the sound. His footsteps echoed against the cracked tiles as he counted the doors. The music was clearer now, flowing, mournful, alive. It was coming from apartment 12B, one floor above his. But when he asked the landlord the next morning, the old man's reaction chilled him. 12B? The landlord's bushy eyebrows drew together. Son, that apartment's been empty for years. Nobody lives there. Ethan froze, the memory of the melody still sharp in his mind. He wanted to argue, to insist he'd heard it with his own ears. But something in the landlord's grave expression stopped him. That night, at 2:15, the music returned. Louder this time. Closer. And when Ethan stepped into the hallway to listen, he wasn't alone. A woman stood outside 12B, her long hair falling over one shoulder, her pale fingers hovering near the doorknob. She turned slowly, her eyes meeting his, deep, knowing, almost sorrowful. "You hear it too," she whispered. Chapter 2: The Woman in 12B. Ethan couldn't look away from her. The hallway was dim, the only light coming from the buzzing fluorescent bulb above. But still her face was clear. Sharp cheekbones, soft lips, eyes that seemed too heavy with secrets for someone her age. Yeah, I hear it," he managed, his voice unsteady. The woman tilted her head, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Most people don't admit it. She turned back toward the door of 12B, brushing her fingers lightly against the wood as if feeling something he couldn't. Then she slipped a small key from her pocket and unlocked the door with a click. Ethan blinked. The landlord had told him the place was abandoned. But before he could ask, the woman looked at him again. "Do you want to come in?" Every sensible thought screamed no. It was late. She was a stranger. Something about this whole thing was wrong. But curiosity, the same thing that made him a good journalist, pushed harder than caution. He nodded. The apartment inside was nothing like he expected. It wasn't dusty or empty. It was warm, lived in. A single lamp cast a golden glow over a grand piano in the center of the room. Sheet music was spread across the floor, like someone had been playing in discarded pages in frustration. "This is impossible," Ethan whispered. The woman smiled faintly and sat at the piano bench. "My name's Lila." She pressed a key, soft, deliberate. The same melody he'd heard at 2:15 a.m. filled the room again. Only now it was alive, echoing against the walls. Ethan's chest tightened. Why only at night? Lila's fingers froze on the keys. For a moment, her face shifted, like she was carrying a weight he couldn't see. "Because night is when the past comes back," she said softly. Ethan felt a chill crawl down his spine. And yet, he couldn't look away from her. Chapter 3: Uncovering the Past. The next morning, Ethan woke up in his own bed, but he wasn't sure how he had gotten there. The last thing he remembered was sitting on Lila's piano bench, listening to her play that haunting melody until the world blurred. Had he fallen asleep? Had she walked him back? Or had he only dreamed it? He ran a hand through his hair and sat up. On the nightstand, something caught his eye. A folded slip of paper. His chest tightened as he opened it. Written in elegant handwriting were 4 words. "Don't tell the landlord." Ethan's pulse quickened. It hadn't been a dream. That afternoon, at work, he couldn't focus. While his colleagues debated headlines and deadlines, Ethan's mind was stuck on Lila. Who was she really? Why did the landlord insist 12B was empty? By evening, his curiosity had turned into obsession. He stopped by the building's office, pretending to look for mail, then leaned casually against the counter. "Hey, Mr. Grant," Ethan began, forcing a smile at the old landlord. "Can I ask you something about the history of this place?" Mr. Grant's bushy eyebrows rose. "History? Kid, this building's older than both of us." Ethan chuckled nervously. "What about apartment 12B? The landlord's expression hardened instantly. "What about it? I just heard something. Music, maybe. Thought someone might live there." "No one lives there," Mr. Grant snapped. "Not anymore." Ethan swallowed. "Not anymore?" The landlord hesitated, eyes narrowing. For a moment Ethan thought he might confess something. But then Mr. Grant shook his head. "Forget it. Just keep to your own unit. Cole, you don't want to go digging where you don't belong." Ethan left the office, heart pounding. The way the landlord had said it, like there was a story buried inside those walls. That night, at 2:15, he found himself standing outside 12B again. The door opened before he even knocked. Lila stood there, her eyes calm but sad, as if she had been waiting. "You're not going to stop until you know, are you?" Ethan shook his head. "No." She stepped aside, letting him in. "Then I'll tell you a story," she whispered, her fingers brushing the piano keys. "But once you hear it, you can't unknow it." The melody began again, softer this time, wrapping around Ethan like a secret finally ready to be spoken. Chapter 4: Between Love and Fear. Lila's story unfolded slowly, woven between notes on the piano. "There was a girl who lived here once," she said softly. "She played music every night at 2:15. She loved someone she could never have. And when he left, she played until her heart couldn't keep up anymore." Ethan listened, entranced. "You're talking about yourself." Her fingers stilled on the keys. She didn't answer, didn't deny it either. Instead, she looked up at him with eyes that seemed far older than she appeared. "I shouldn't be here," she whispered. "But I can't leave yet." Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to ask why, wanted to demand answers, but the words caught in his chest. Instead, he asked the question that burned the hardest. "Are you real, Lila?" For a moment, she smiled. "Does it matter? You feel me, don't you? You hear me, you see me." Ethan's pulse raced. He shouldn't be drawn to her, he knew it. She was impossible. She was wrong. She was a mystery that could swallow him whole. But the way she looked at him, the way her voice trembled when she spoke, it was like she already knew the shape of his heart. That night, he stayed until dawn. When he finally returned to his own apartment, exhausted, he found another note slipped under his door. This one wasn't in Lila's handwriting. It was messy, rushed, almost angry. "Stay away from her." Ethan's blood ran cold. Someone else knew about Lila, someone who didn't want him near her. Chapter 5: The Investigation. The warning note burned in Ethan's pocket all day. He couldn't shake the questions swirling in his head. Who had slipped it under his door? How did they know about Lila? And more importantly, what exactly was she hiding? By evening, Ethan found himself in the city library, surrounded by dust and silence. He pulled old newspaper archives from the shelves, scrolling through the microfilm machine until his eyes ached. He searched for anything connected to the building. It didn't take long. "Tragedy in Midtown apartment. Young pianist found dead." The article was dated 3 years ago. Ethan's pulse quickened as he read the details. The woman's name: Lila Hayes, age 24. Cause of death: unexplained heart failure. Neighbors claimed she played her piano late every night, the same haunting tune, until the morning she didn't wake up. Ethan leaned back in his chair, heart pounding. He whispered her name to himself, as if testing its weight. Lila Hayes. She was real. She had lived in 12B, and she had died there. The next night, Ethan confronted her. "You're dead," he said bluntly, standing in the dim glow of her apartment. "I found the article." Lila's hands trembled on the piano keys. For a moment, she looked fragile, like glass about to crack. "I told you," she whispered. I shouldn't be here. Then why are you? Her eyes lifted to his, and something in them made his chest ache. Because I can't leave unfinished love behind. Before Ethan could respond, a sudden knock rattled the door. Both of them froze. Don't answer it, Lila breathed. Her face had gone pale. The knocking came again, louder this time. Ethan's skin prickled as a voice hissed through the door. I told you to stay away from her. Chapter 6: The Dead Woman's Secret. The pounding on the door grew sharper, urgent, until Ethan thought the old wood might splinter. Who is that? He whispered. Lila shook her head, fear flickering in her eyes. You don't want to know. The voice came again, low and threatening. Ethan, open this door, now. His blood froze. Whoever it was knew his name. Against Lila's desperate whisper of protest, Ethan yanked the door open. The hallway light buzzed overhead, casting shadows across the man who stood outside. He was tall, weary, with sharp features and eyes that burned with something between anger and warning. You shouldn't be here, the man said. Ethan clenched his fists. Who are you? The stranger ignored him, his gaze fixed on Lila. You're still here, after all this time. Lila's voice cracked. Leave him out of this, Marcus. Ethan blinked. Marcus? You know him? The man stepped forward, his tone cutting like glass. I was her fiancé. The words landed like a blow. Ethan staggered back, his heart pounding in his ears. She's mine, Cole. She's always been mine. And you, his eyes darkened. You're meddling with something you don't understand. Ethan looked at Lila, searching for denial, but all he saw was pain. She lowered her gaze, her hands trembling on the piano keys. It's true, she whispered. I loved him once. The silence that followed was suffocating. Ethan's chest felt tight, like the air itself was rejecting him. But before he could speak, Marcus leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a cold whisper meant only for Ethan. She didn't just die here. She was killed. And if you keep digging, you'll end up just like her. Chapter 7: The Final Note. The hallway seemed to shrink around them, every shadow deepening as Marcus's words sank in. Killed. Ethan's stomach knotted, but he forced his voice steady. If she was killed, then who? Marcus cut him off. Don't play the hero, Cole. You don't want the truth. Lila rose slowly from the piano bench, her face pale but her eyes burning. No, Marcus. He deserves to know. He deserves what you never gave me. Her voice trembled, but the weight of it filled the room. Ethan turned to her, heart hammering. Tell me. Lila's hands curled into fists. He couldn't stand losing me. The night I tried to leave, Marcus made sure I never walked out of this apartment. Ethan's breath caught. His gaze snapped to Marcus, whose jaw tightened. His silence as good as a confession. You, Ethan's voice cracked with fury. You killed her. Marcus's lips twisted into a cold smile. I loved her too much to let her go. And now, she belongs here. Forever. The piano keys shuddered as Lila's hand slammed down, a dissonant chord filling the air. Her voice rose, sharp with anguish. No, Marcus, I don't belong to you anymore. The light in the room flickered, the air suddenly thick, electric. The melody, the haunting one Ethan had heard night after night, rose from the piano on its own, the notes swelling until the walls vibrated. Marcus staggered back, eyes wide. Lila, stop! But she didn't. Her form shimmered, her edges fading like mist as she played. Every note seemed to cut him deeper, his face twisting in rage and fear. Ethan stood frozen, watching as the final chord thundered through the apartment. The sound echoed, sharp and endless, then silence. When Ethan blinked, Marcus was gone. The room was empty. The piano stood still. And Lila, she turned to him one last time, her smile bittersweet, her eyes soft. Thank you for hearing me, Ethan. For remembering me. His throat ached. Lila, don't go. But her voice was already fading, her outline dissolving like smoke in sunlight. Some love stories don't end with forever, she whispered. They end with letting go. And then she was gone. Ethan stood alone in the silent apartment, the final note still ringing in his heart.